Hi, I'm Angel Nightingale. Welcome to my channel. I have written many different fairy tale stories for both kids and adults to enjoy, and other interesting videos. Please like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you won't miss out on great videos that's beneficial to all. Have a beautiful day to each and everyone. Enjoy.
Once there was a poor girl named Rose. Rose lived with her mother and father in the countryside called Tuscany, Italy. It's still very beautiful there. They live in a little wooden house in the village. Although Rose wasn't as privileged as others, Rose was very humble and kind and generous person. She also was very beautiful. Rose had many chores on a daily basis: clean the house, get water from a nearby stream, feed the animals, and take care of the garden. Rose worked very hard. Rose's parents weren't in the best of health. Years of their hard work has made them exhausted, and they were getting down with age. That's when Rose fully took on all the responsibilities. She took care of her mother and father and also cooked for them. Rose did her chores and never once complained against it. Rose did her chores and sang all day whilst doing them. When Rose had time to rest after her daily chores, she would go down by the stream and bathe and sing among nature and stargaze, wishing that one day a prince would find her and marry, and then she can take care of her parents and they can all live happily ever after. But Rose was starting to believe she would never renew by any prince. She was a bit saddened by her family's situation, but Rose was a praying soul. Meanwhile, on another side of the country called Milan, Italy, where the rich live in luxury hotels and lavish lifestyle, there lived a mother and father and their beautiful daughters named Caroline. They all in one of the most luxurious hotel resorts. Caroline was well privileged and loved shopping. Caroline had housemaids, so she didn't have any house chores and spent her time going to glamorous parties and events. She ate the best meals and drove the most expensive cars. Caroline was really spoiled, and she was very mean and selfish. She treated people who was unfortunate very badly and had no respect for anyone. Although Caroline was beautiful on the outside, her heart was dark and ugly. Caroline always paid her way out of trouble. Whenever she gets herself in trouble with the law, which was very often, Caroline would pay her way out immediately without any punishment. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in a far land there lived a king and queen and their son. His name was Prince Dimitri of Avanti Kingdom. Prince Dimitri was a great prince. He was well loved by his kingdom and people abroad. Prince Dimitri was well respected and was very kind and generous to all people. He also helped the homeless people and provided many shelters and food for them all. He also held many charities for the orphanages. Prince Dimitri was a hero to his people. Prince Dimitri in his free time loved nature and enjoyed stargazing. One day the king and queen invited Prince Dimitri to join them in an important discussion. He joined his parents in their private chamber. The king and queen both agreed that it was time that Prince Dimitri found a wife. Dimitri sighed in frustration over the topic he was trying so hard to avoid. Not that he didn't want to be married or find a girl, but it was hard to find true love. In the past, the king and queen got many fair maidens for the prince to marry, but he didn't like any of the fair maiden. They were all too superficial and selfish, a total opposite of what Prince Dimitri stands for. After a moment of silence, Prince Dimitri finally spoke up about the situation concerning finding a wife. Prince Dimitri told the king and queen that he will soon be going on a trip and he will return after 2 months with his bride-to-be. The king and queen was very happy and relieved and pleased with their son Dimitri. They agreed with the prince. Prince Dimitri said his parents, "I have only one condition." The king and queen looks at Dimitri with interest. They ask, "What's the condition, our son?" Dimitri said, "I choose a bride whether she be rich or poor. It doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that my wife to be share the same love for people and loves nature as I do. True love, it's rare, but still do exist." The king and queen was silent for a while, and they looked at each other and then finally turned to their son and said, "So be it, Dimitri, we agreed to your decision. When are you starting your journey?" The prince said, "I'll begin my journey tomorrow." The king and queen smiled and hugged their son and wished him all the best on his journey. Prince Dimitri held a meeting with his knights. He told them his plan for the journey. He told them that once they reached their destination, they would not address him as a prince, but as a commoner, a normal person. The knights were a bit shocked, but agreed with their prince. Prince Dimitri prepares for his journey and dressed in a casual outfit. He didn't look like a prince, but he still looks great and very handsome. Prince Dimitri bought a plane ticket to Italy. His flight tomorrow morning. He already packed and was a bit excited about his journey and finding true love. Dimitri fell asleep eventually. A new day. Prince Dimitri bid farewell to the king and queen, and they both wished the best to their son the prince. Prince Dimitri boarded his plane and set on his journey to Italy to find true love. Finally, Prince Dimitri's flight landed, and Dimitri and his knights, he called them his bodyguards, went and stayed in one of the luxurious hotel resort in Milan. It's the very same resort that the rich girl Caroline living with her family. It's been a few days since the prince arrived in Italy and staying in the resort. He told his knights that only one of them will accompany him on his walk, and he will be introduced as his uncle. The knight was a bit shocked, but he obeyed the prince. The prince then told the other 3 knights to be discreet, dress in suits, and they can protect him from a distance. Prince Dimitri decided to take a walk around the resort, and after exploring for a while, decided to return to his room. Just then he saw this beautiful girl and decided to introduce himself to her. He told his knight to stay back a little. Prince Dimitri went up to the girl and said, "Hi, I'm Dimitri. What's your name, beautiful lady?" The girl spun around and saw Dimitri. She said, "I'm Caroline. How can I help you?" Dimitri said, "I saw you were from across the hall, and you are so beautiful I had to introduce myself and meet you." Caroline looks at Dimitri up and down and said, "What do you do, Dimitri? The way you look, you don't even belong in this luxurious hotel." Dimitri thinked quickly and said, "I work at a food service. You should visit me. It's not very far from here. I came here with my uncle." "I was wondering, Caroline, would you be my date? I would love to take you out." Caroline looks at Dimitri with disgust and said, "You skunk, get away from me. You think I'll ever go out with someone like you? You work in a food service and you are poor and disgusting. Get away from me, you fool." Caroline and her friends laughed at Dimitri. Dimitri turned around and felt a bit humiliated. Then he reminded himself of his main purpose, to find true love. A new day has come. Prince Dimitri decided to go after Caroline again, one more try. He saw Caroline having dinner with the same girls, and among them was Caroline's mother. Dimitri went up to the dining table and greets everyone kindly, and then introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Dimitri. Caroline, nice to meet you again." Caroline's mother asks who you are. Dimitri, "What do you want with my daughter?" Dimitri said, "I would like to ask your daughter Caroline out on a date." Caroline scoffed and said, "With you, no way, never." Caroline's mother stands up and approached Dimitri and said, "You Dimitri, or whatever you call yourself, stay away from my daughter. You are poor and have nothing to offer my daughter. How can you provide for her?" Dimitri said, "I can give her true love, and I do work at a food service." Caroline's mother started to laugh, and everyone at the table started laughing at Dimitri. Caroline stood up and said, "Dimitri the skunk, I am not interested in you and your poorness. You rot of poverty." Caroline threw the glass of wine on Dimitri's face and shirt and told him to never approach her again, or she will get him arrested. Everyone started laughing at Dimitri again. Dimitri walked away and returned to his room. A new day has come. Dimitri went out every day in search of the right girl to marry to, but all the girls there was very superficial and treated him badly, all because he didn't have enough money and wasn't rich. Prince Dimitri started to get discouraged, but his knights cheered him up and told him not to give up. He will find his true love, and maybe he needs to go to the countryside. Prince Dimitri smiled and thanked his knights for their encouragement. Prince Dimitri planned to go to the countryside called Tuscany in Italy tomorrow morning. Prince Dimitri prayed and asked God for guidance. Prince Dimitri eventually fell asleep. A new day has come. Prince Dimitri and his knights on the journey to Tuscany. It was a very long drive, miles upon miles away. But the beautiful open fields and nature was so amazingly beautiful, Dimitri felt happy and full of hope. Dimitri saw a beautiful open field with so many birds and animals and butterflies. He told the driver to stop the car, and Dimitri ordered his knights to follow him through the fields. The knights asked the prince, "Do you know where you're going, Prince Dimitri? There's no landmarks anywhere." Prince Dimitri answered the knights and said, "Something tells me that this is my journey, and I will find my true love, and I believe that God is guiding me to this direction." The knights was worried, but they respect and honor their prince. They took all the prince's belongings from the car, and Dimitri led the way through a track that was made in the field. Prince Dimitri and his knights journeyed for 3 days, barely stopping to eat or sleep. They eventually ran out of food supplies on the 4th day. The knights was worried by now they were lost along with the prince, no food and no water. They were all exhausted. They stopped to rest and fell asleep under a huge tree. Meanwhile, while back at Rose's house, she got up early to do her morning chores, and she went down to the stream to catch some water for the animals. Then she heard in the distance someone yelling for help. Rose rushed towards the sound of the person yelling and finally found 7 men. They all look very weak and hungry, starving. Rose offered the men water, and they grabbed the pitcher of water and started drinking. Everyone drank, and they finally said, "Thank you, fair lady." Rose offered the men to follow her home, and she told them they will get some food to eat. The men were grateful to Rose. "Thank you." The men said. She then said, "You can call me Rose." Prince Dimitri couldn't help but to smile and admire Rose's beauty and kindness. They all followed Rose to her home, and she offered them a room to stay until they are strong enough to continue their journey. Rose was a really good cook, and the men were all full, and they thanked Rose again. Rose said, "It's nothing, you all needed help, and I'm happy I could help." Rose asked the men where they were headed to before they got lost. The men then looked at Prince Dimitri to answer the question. Prince Dimitri then answered, "Rose, I'm Dimitri, and these men are my friends. We were driving along the countryside, and I stopped the driver, and we just started hiking and admiring the beautiful nature around us. It's my fault, really. I got carried away by the beautiful scenery, and eventually we got lost." Rose smiled to herself, and Dimitri noticed and smiled. Rose said, "I understand how one can get carried away by the beautiful scenery and nature. I'm just thankful that you are all well." The men were grateful but also exhausted. Rose saw that they needed to rest. She told the men that they can sleep in the barn. She already made a place for them there where they can sleep comfortably. The men were grateful and went off to bed. They bid farewell to Rose and the Dimitri. Dimitri stayed up and started a conversation with Rose. "Rose, we are very grateful and thankful to you. Thanks for your hospitality." Rose said, "Oh Dimitri, it's okay, no need to thank me again." Rose smiled to herself. Dimitri then asked Rose how long has she been living here. Rose said, "All my life." He then asked Rose if she likes living in the countryside. Rose said, "I do, but sometimes I wish I can see the world." Dimitri asked, "Then what's stopping you from seeing the world?" Rose sat down opposite Dimitri and said, "Well, it's not as easy as you think. I have responsibilities. I have my mother and father to take care of, and I take care of the animals and maintain the farm." Dimitri said, "All by yourself? Isn't there any that can help you out?" Rose sighed and said, "It's okay, I can manage. No, there's no one that can help." Dimitri felt a bit saddened by Rose's situation. Dimitri said, "Forgive me for all the questions." Rose said, "It's okay, I understand." Dimitri asked what happened to your parents. Rose sighed and said it's a long story. Dimitri said I don't mind, I'm too exhausted and tired to rest. Rose said okay and sighed and took a deep breath and started to explain the situation. My father and mother was doing very well in the city. They had a great business and it developed quickly, but my father's friend that he knew for many years somehow swindled my dad out of his business. Apparently for many years my father's friend was undergoing illegal business and framed my dad for his crime. My father was imprisoned for 5 years, and when they found out my dad was innocent, he was set free from prison. When my father returned to get his business on track again, then he realized that the family business was no longer his. My father's best friend took his company away from him. My father was heartbroken and felt so betrayed by his best friend. My father suffered a heart attack and after that fell into depression. My mother tried her best to work 2 jobs to keep the family afloat, but then she got laid off from both jobs and we couldn't pay for the house anymore. That's when we decided to go to the countryside and we sell everything that was valued to us to buy this very land we're on today. We got animals and built a barn and this little house and lived here for 15 years now. Eventually over the years, my father and mother couldn't manage anymore and I had to take over everything on my own. Rose couldn't help but to tear up a bit. Dimitri held her hands and said, I'm so sorry for everything you and your family have been through, and then Dimitri gave Rose a hug. When he released Rose, she looks up at Dimitri in his eyes for a moment and they were about to kiss, and then Rose heard her mother calling and she quickly left Dimitri and ran to see to her mother. Dimitri sat down for a while and when Rose came back out, he asked her if everything is okay. Rose said yes, my mother needed a glass of water, she's fine. Dimitri then said, well, I'm saying good night and thanks again, Rose. Rose said good night, Dimitri. A new day has come, and Prince Dimitri and his knights were awoken by a knock on the door. He opened the door to see Rose. Good morning, Rose, how was your night? Prince Dimitri asked, and all the knights greeted Rose. Rose smiled and good morning, everyone, I have hot chocolate and coffee and breakfast on the table, when you're ready. Everyone said yes, thank you. Rose laughed and answered Dimitri, my night was very okay, thanks for asking. Dimitri smiled and said, we'll be there in a minute, thanks, Rose. She smiled and left the room. Everyone enjoyed breakfast, complimented Rose for her cooking. Rose smiled and said thank you. Rose said she's doing her morning chores and asked to be excused. Dimitri said we would love to help Rose, anything we are willing. Oh no, you're my guest. The knights and the prince insisted they want to help her with her chores. Rose smiled and said okay, thanks. Dimitri said just show us what to do and we'll do it. Rose showed 3 of the knights how to clean the barn and feed the animals they catch on quickly. Rose told the other 3 knights to get water from the stream for the animals and plants and water for bathing. They did just as Rose requested. Dimitri said, what should I do? Rose said, you can chop the wood for fire and I'll see about my parents. Dimitri said, okay, I get to it. Rose said, Dimitri, would you like to meet my parents? Dimitri said yes, I will love to. Rose smiled and took Dimitri to her father and mother. Good morning, mother and father, this is my friend Dimitri. Hello Dimitri, nice to meet you. You're welcome here. We're sorry we couldn't greet you and your friends last night, we were already sleeping. Dimitri said, that's okay, I understand, and thank you both for your hospitality. Rose's mother smiled and said, I like him, Rose. He is very good man. Rose smiled and her father said, so Dimitri, where are you from? I'm from Avanti. Rose's father said, that's a long way. What brings you Tuscany, Italy? Dimitri said, well, I'm here with my friends on vacation, and we wanted to see your beautiful countryside and ended up lost, and well, you know the rest. Yes, we heard. Sorry you've been through that experience, but your daughter Rose has been a light in the darkness. She saved us all. Rose smiled and blushed pink. Dimitri noticed and smiled at Rose. The mother and father noticed how Rose and Dimitri looking at each other and they smiled. Rose cleared her throat and said she's going to start cooking, plus we need firewood. Dimitri said yes, we do, I'll get to it. Dimitri said it was very nice meeting you both, and thanks again for your hospitality. Rose's parents smile and say you're very welcome. Dimitri excused himself and went to fetch the firewood. Whilst Rose started preparing the ingredients for the meal, Dimitri finished quickly and joined Rose in the kitchen. Rose starts cooking and everything smelled delicious. She sat on one of the chairs in the kitchen and Dimitri joined her. Rose asked if Dimitri is married or has a girlfriend. He was a bit surprised by Rose's straightforwardness, but he likes that. Dimitri said, no, I have never been married and I don't have a girlfriend. What about you, Rose? Anyone special? Rose smiled and said no and started to blush pink, and Dimitri smiled back at Rose. Dimitri asked, have you ever had a boyfriend? Rose said no, never. Dimitri smiles and then he said, I really like you, Rose, and I really would like to know you more. Rose smiled and said, I would really love that, and I really like you too, Dimitri. Rose finished cooking, everyone bathed and enjoyed the meal. 3 weeks passed and the Knights was helping with the chores, and Dimitri and Rose became really close and would take nature walks together and stay up late at night, stargazing. Eventually they both fell in love with each other. Dimitri Knights was really happy for them both. Soon Dimitri will have to tell Rose who he really was and why he was really in Italy. This made Dimitri a bit nervous. What if she doesn't want to be married to him, or she doesn't want to leave this place? A new day has come, and Prince Dimitri built up the nerve to tell Rose everything. After the morning chores, Dimitri asked Rose to join him on a nature walk. Rose accepted. Dimitri and Rose were admiring the beautiful butterflies and listening to the birds singing. Dimitri breaks the silence and says, Rose, there is something I need to tell you. Yes, Dimitri, you can tell me anything. Dimitri said, Rose, I love you so much, and I have to tell you who I am and why I'm really here in Italy. Rose said, I love you too, Dimitri. Please tell me, I'm listening. Dimitri said, I'm really a prince and I live in Avanti Kingdom. Rose was shocked but listened carefully to what Dimitri was saying. Dimitri continued and told her that his parents wanted him to find a wife, and he also told her when he first came to Italy how he met Caroline and how she humiliated him multiple times. Rose was very quiet. Dimitri continued and told Rose, that's when he decided to come to Tuscany and got lost, and then I met you, Rose, and I'm so happy I met you, Rose. You are everything I always wanted in a fair maiden, and we love the same things. Rose, I love you so much and I want to get married to you. Rose, would you marry me? Dimitri was waiting for Rose to answer and hoping she accepts his proposal. Rose was quiet for a few minutes. It seems like forever. After some time, Rose finally starts talking. Dimitri, I love you so much and I honestly don't care if you're a prince. I love you no matter who you are. Dimitri smiles. I will love nothing more than to marry you. Dimitri stands closer to Rose. But I can't go with you. Dimitri's face drops and he felt really sad and disappointed. Why? Dimitri said. Rose said, my mother and father, who would take care of them. I'm the only one they have. Dimitri said, we take them with us. I will see that they're taken care of. They wouldn't be in want of anything. I promise you, Rose. Rose was silent again. Then she said, Dimitri, you have to ask my parents' permission first. Dimitri nodded in agreement. Dimitri and Rose went to her parents' room and entered. Rose's parents were happy to see them both. Mom, Dad, Dimitri, and I would like to share something with you both. Dimitri took the lead. He told them everything from being a prince to the trip to Italy. Rose's parents were shocked but really happy. Dimitri then told Rose's parents that he is in love with Rose and he wants their blessings to marry their daughter. Rose's parents were excited and happy, and they said, yes, we give you both our blessings. We will be honored to have you a part of our family. Rose was so happy, and Dimitri too. Dimitri then asked Rose's parents if they would come live with them in Avanti Kingdom. Rose's parents didn't hesitate and said yes, they would do anything for Rose's happiness. Everyone was happy, and the Knights celebrate with the prince and his true love, Rose. Prince Dimitri told everyone that tomorrow morning they will all leave to go back to Avanti Kingdom. The knight was happy and joyful. A new day has come, and everyone is packed and ready, including Rose and her parents. Everyone reaches the airport, and Prince Dimitri had everyone board his private plane. Rose's parents were comfortable, and everyone was happy. Finally, they reach Avanti, and the king and queen already got the big news and sent a driver to pick up everyone from the airport. Welcome to Avanti Kingdom. Welcome back home, Prince Dimitri. Dimitri smiles and told the driver thank you. They finally reach Avanti Kingdom. The king and queen were waiting patiently, and they greeted their son and his knights and guests. Everyone was settled in, and then they were called to dinner. The queen got many dresses for Rose, and her parents treated them all like royalty. When Rose came to join the dinner, everyone was looking at how beautiful Rose looks, especially Prince Dimitri. The king and queen smile and look at how in love their son was, and they felt happy and relieved. Everyone enjoyed dinner and drinks, and the king and queen and Dimitri and Rose sat by themselves and had a conversation about how they met and what Dimitri experienced. Dimitri told them everything. Dimitri told his parents right in front of Rose how much he loves her. Rose smiled and said she loves Dimitri with all her heart. The king and queen was very pleased and happy for them both. Then they invited Rose's parents, and they all agreed that Dimitri and Rose is going to be married. Everything was going great, and everyone was happy. The night was getting late, and everyone bid good night to each other. Rose's parents shared a room together. Rose had her own room, and Prince Dimitri had his own room. The knights returned to their rooms. Prince Dimitri knocked on Rose's door quietly, and she opened the door, and Dimitri hugged her, and they both shared a kiss. They said good night again, and went to their separate rooms. A new day in Avanti Kingdom. Prince Dimitri and Rose and the king and queen and Rose's parents started preparing for the wedding. The wedding is next week. Prince Dimitri don't want to wait any longer than that. The king and queen agreed. Everything was going really great. The king and queen and Rose's parents really get along very well, and they all grew to love and respect each other. Prince Dimitri and Rose took lovely walks in the garden, and every night when everyone was sleeping, they would sneak out and go outside and stargaze. They were happily in love. Meanwhile, back in Italy, the news of Prince Dimitri of Avanti and Rose are engaged and getting married in a few days to come. The news was on television and radio and newspapers. Caroline saw the newspaper and was shocked. She couldn't believe it was the same man she and her friends and mother humiliated turned out to be a prince. Caroline and her mother were speechless for a moment. Then they started to blame each other for how they treated the prince. Caroline and her mother started to think about what can be done to change the prince's mind about marrying that poor girl and get the prince to marry Caroline instead. Caroline and her mother smiled wickedly. Caroline and her mother came up with a wicked and devious plan. They both laughed wickedly. Caroline and her mother book a flight to go to Avanti Kingdom. 3 more days before the wedding. Caroline and her mother reach Avanti Kingdom and manage to fool the palace guards that they're guests of the bride-to-be Rose. The palace guards let them in. The king and queen greeted Caroline and her mother. Then they told the king and queen that there's something very important they must make the king and queen aware of about Rose. This made the king and queen curious. The king and queen invited Caroline and her mother to their private chamber. When they settled down, Caroline's mother addresses the king and queen and said that their son Prince Dimitri was going out with her daughter, and he already asked her daughter Caroline hand in marriage, and that the prince told them he was going to talk with his parents first about the engagement between Caroline and Prince Dimitri. Of course, this was a big lie. The The king and queen was a bit confused and said, but he is already engaged to Rose, and they're getting married in 3 days' time. Caroline pretending to be crying and said that she loves Dimitri, and he promised her they will be married. Caroline asks if she can use the washroom. The queen directed Caroline to where the washroom was, and when no one was looking, Caroline sneaked into the queen bedroom, went through the drawers and found one of the queen's beautiful and expensive necklace and took it. Then Caroline searched for Rose's bedroom, and then she finally found Rose's room, and went to Rose's closet and saw a suitcase and put the queen's necklace in Rose's suitcase to make Rose look like a thief. Then Caroline quickly came back downstairs and reached back at the king and queen chamber. The queen asks Caroline if all is well. Caroline said, "Sorry, Highness, I got a little lost, but I got through, all is well." The queen settled back in her chair. Caroline's mother then said, "Your Highnesses, we understand that you already set your mind on Rose, so we respect and honor your wishes." The queen said, "How very admirable of you." Caroline's mother smiled, and Caroline smiled also. They told the king and queen that they must be leaving. Just as they were about to leave the palace, they saw the prince and Rose walking in, and Caroline told the king and queen, "This is Rose, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was the same Rose you were talking about. This girl is a rat." The king and queen said, "I beg your pardon." Caroline said, "This girl is a thief. When she was in Italy, she stole my wristband." Rose was confused and said, "I don't know this lady." Prince Dimitri said, "Mother and father, this girl is a liar. Caroline and her mother and friends humiliated me, all because they thought I was poor." The king and queen was very upset. "Is that so?" Caroline and her mother started to make excuses. "Your Highnesses, we didn't know who he was, and he was terribly dressed." The king and queen said, "That's no excuse to treat anyone like garbage. Everyone should be treated with respect, no matter who they are." Caroline and her mother said, "We agree, Your Highnesses. We're sorry. Please forgive us, Your Highnesses." The king and queen asked the palace guards to escort Caroline and her mother out of the compound. Caroline then said, "Your Highness, yes, we're guilty of discrimination, but that girl is not innocent either. She is a thief. She stole my wristband. I'm not leaving until you search her room, Your Majesty." Rose said, "I'm not a thief." "Yes, you are," Caroline said. Prince Dimitri said, "How dare you come to my kingdom and accused my fiancé of being a thief." The king and queen can't take it anymore and said, "So be it. Let's all go to Rose's room so we can clear her name." Rose's parents very upset about the accusations against their only daughter Rose. They all head back inside the palace and went straight to Rose's room. The palace guards searched the whole room, and finally they searched Rose's suitcase. Everyone was shocked when the palace guards emptied Rose's suitcase. They found a wristband, and Caroline said, "That's my wristband. I told you she stole it. She's a thief." Rose said, "I didn't steal anything. I'm not a thief." Then the palace guards found a necklace. The king and queen was utterly shocked, and so was the prince. "That's my necklace," the queen said. "I told you, she's a thief. I don't know how that got in my suitcase, but I promise you, Your Majesty, I would never steal from you or anyone else, Your Majesty." The king and queen was very upset, and then they got really angry. The queen said, "Rose, how could you steal from us, Rose, after we accepted you and your family with open arms?" Rose's eyes filled with tears. "Your Majesty, I'm innocent. I'm not a thief." Rose's mother and father said, "Your Majesty, our daughter is innocent. She is not a thief." Dimitri was very quiet. Rose turned to Dimitri and said, "Dimitri, please believe me. I never stole anything. I'm innocent, please believe me." "Dimitri, please say something." The king and queen said, "That's enough. Guards, take Rose to the jail cell." Rose's family started to cry and protect against the king and queen and beg them to believe that their daughter is not a thief. Rose's father was really upset, and then he started to hold his chest in pain and then fainted. Rose screams and run to her father and ask the king and queen to please call a doctor. The king and queen did call the doctor, and the doctor took Rose's father to their guest room in the palace room and took care of him. Rose's mother was crying and was very worried about her husband and also worried about Rose. Prince Dimitri tried to convince his father and mother to give Rose a chance, that he knew Rose is innocent, and this had to be a set that Caroline and her mother planned. But the king and queen was too angry, and it clouded their judgment. The king and queen ordered the palace guards to lock up Rose in one of the holding cells until they decide on her punishment. Prince Dimitri was distraught. Rose was devastated and her mother was really upset. Caroline and her mother silently smiles wickedly as the palace guards took Rose away. Rose's mother was crying and went off to see her husband. He is resting in the palace guest room. They were given to stay upon them at the kingdom. Rose's father is rest comfortably. Rose's mother asks the doctor how her husband is. The doctor said it wasn't a heart attack, it was a panic attack, which can feel like a real heart attack. He will be fine, the doctor said. He needs to rest and take it easy, no stress. Thank you, doctor, said Rose's mother. The doctor said, just doing my job, and you're welcome. Rose's mother went to visit her daughter Rose in the holding cell in the palace dungeon. When Rose saw her mother, she started crying and asked if her father was okay. Her mother told her that he's okay and resting. The doctor said it wasn't a heart attack, it was just a panic attack, which can feel like a heart attack. Rose was relieved. Same time Rose had another visitor. It was Prince Dimitri. Rose's mother said goodnight and left Rose. Rose asks Dimitri to go away. I don't want to see you, Dimitri. You have brought grief to me and my family. Just leave me alone. Dimitri said, no, I can't leave you like this, Rose. I love you and I will clear your name. Please, Rose, give me a chance. I will make things right. Please, Rose, I love you. Rose couldn't say a word and just started crying. Dimitri stretched his hands through the bars of the cell gate and touched Rose on her head and told her everything will be okay. I promise you, Rose. Good night, my love. Dimitri left and went back to his room. He hasn't slept the whole night, thinking about how he can prove Rose's innocence. Then Dimitri remembers something very significant. Early the next morning, Prince Dimitri went to the palace guards and asked to see the surveillance tape of the Queen's room from yesterday since the arrival of Caroline and her mother. The palace guards give Prince Dimitri all the tapes he asks for. Prince Dimitri went through all the tapes and saw many shocking evidence, and then he saw Caroline stealing the Queen's necklace and put the necklace and her hand bracelet in Rose's suitcase. The prince smiling happily. He rushes downstairs with the tapes and asks the king and queen to the secret chamber. The king and queen agreed, and they all say down except for Dimitri. Mother and father, I have evidence of the thief who stole your necklace on this videotape. Necklaces, proceed to the video player, place the tape in and press play. The video footage showed Caroline entered the Queen's room and stole the necklace, and then goes to Rose's room and put the stolen necklace and her own hand bracelet in Rose's suitcase. The king and queen was shocked and embarrassed and was really angry that they fell for Caroline lies and deceit. The king and queen was speechless. That didn't stop Dimitri from talking. He said, I know you, my mother and father wanted to purpose I marry Caroline. The king and queen said, how did you know? Well, my parents, I'm your son. This is why mother and father, I will never marry a rich girl or any of those so-called princesses. Most of them are fakes. They don't even love the things I do, and they are very tricky characters. I love Rose, she is honest, she loves the things I love, and she is kind and generous. If Rose only have one pair of shoes, she would give it away to someone in need and remain without any for herself. I would never trade the time spent with Rose for any riches of this world. Rose is a rose that never dies. The queen was in tears and the king was silent. Then the king said, Dimitri, my son, can you forgive an old fool? I'm so sorry. The queen said, please, Dimitri, forgive us, your parents. We were so easy to believe the worst about Rose, because she was poor and was quick to believe Caroline. and her mother because they came from riches. We are ashamed of ourselves, please Dimitri forgive us. Dimitri said, I forgive you both my father and mother, I love you both very much. I can never stay mad at you both. The king and queen stands up and embrace Dimitri with a huge hug. They all laugh happily. Then the king and queen said we must release Rose at once and apologize for our mistakes and false accusations. Then Dimitri said, not yet, remember Caroline and her mother is to arrive today for the marriage proposal. Oh yes, of course, they have a surprise coming to both of them. Dimitri said, excuse me mother and father, I have to see my bride-to-be and let her know all is well. Yes, my son, go on, you'll meet us in the palace court with Caroline and her mother later this evening. Yes, I will mother and father, later I must go. Dimitri left and hurried down to the cell where Rose is being held. Dimitri, is that you? Rose asked. Yes, my love, I came to give you very good news. Dimitri told Rose everything, that they have Caroline on tape and that Caroline is seeking marriage to him. He told Rose the king and queen has plans for Caroline and her mother. Dimitri told Rose she has to stay in the cell until tonight after the dinner with Caroline and her mother. Rose understood. Dimitri got closer to the cell and held Rose's face and they both shared a kiss. They bid farewell until later tonight. At last Caroline and her mother arrived at the palace. The king and queen greeted them kindly and they all settled for dinner. Then Prince Dimitri joined the dinner and greeted Caroline and her mother politely. Caroline and her mother smiled happily. Suddenly 4 palace guards both standing at Caroline and her mother's side. Caroline asks, what's this? Dimitri smiled. The king and queen stands up and said, bring out the projector screen. Other palace guards brought out the projector screen and the queen ordered the guards to play the tape. Caroline and her mother were interested in what was about to be played, only to see Caroline stealing the queen's necklace and going to Rose's room and put the stolen necklace and her own hand bracelet in Rose's suitcase. Caroline's mouth falls open in shock and her mother was silent. Caroline tried to make a foolish excuse, but the king and queen would not give a hearing to her lies and treachery. The king said, you Caroline and your mother has made a mockery of our kindness and have committed treachery and stealing and invading of privacy, and you made false accusations against an innocent girl. I hereby banished Caroline and her mother from ever returning to this kingdom. I will make sure the news of the crime committed here in Avanti Kingdom by both of you are known to the world. I will now hand you over to the official officers of Italy. They will imprison you both for your crimes. Caroline and her mother plead and beg the king and queen, but they would not give them any sympathy. The palace guards hand Caroline and her mother over to the officials and was taken away back to Italy for their crimes. The news quickly spread all over the world and Caroline and her mother's crimes. Caroline's mother had many benefactors for her businesses and many high societies and democrats. But after reading and hearing on the news about what she and her daughter Caroline had done, they all decided to drop any business endeavor with their association. Caroline and her mother lost all their business and clients. No one will ever do business with them again. Caroline and her mother lost their luxurious home and had to leave Italy because they weren't born in Italy. They originally came from Eritrea. Caroline and her mother became very poor indeed. Their selfishness and wicked hearts have led them to their own destruction. Meanwhile, back at Avanti Kingdom, the king and queen are busy planning a big and beautiful wedding for Prince Dimitri and Rose. The king and queen apologize to Rose and her parents on many occasions, and Rose and her parents has forgiven the king and queen over and over again. Prince Dimitri and Rose fell more in love with each other and can't wait to start a new life together. Tomorrow is the wedding ceremony and celebration. The king and queen, Rose's mother and father, and Prince Dimitri and Rose all sat for dinner and were all excited about the big day tomorrow. After dinner, everyone wish each other a good night. Prince Dimitri give Rose a huge hug and kiss and say good night my love, and Rose said, good night my prince, and went off to bed. A new day has come. The wedding for Prince Dimitri and Rose. All of the kingdom gathered and all people who were able to attend was very happy for Prince Dimitri and Rose. Although Rose wasn't royalty, she was well respected for her kindness and generosity, and all the people she had helped in the past and present. It was time, and Prince Dimitri was waiting eagerly at the altar. Then finally Rose walking down the aisle with her father, her mother sitting in front and looking at her daughter, and tears of joy running down her face. Rose was looking extremely beautiful, gorgeous. She shines like a star and looks rosy as a rose. Prince Dimitri couldn't take his eyes off of Rose. Finally Rose reached Dimitri's side and they look at each other with so much love. The priest made Prince Dimitri and Rose say their vows and then announced that they're now husband and wife, and you may kiss your bride. Without hesitation Prince Dimitri was already kissing Rose and the crowd applauded, and then the celebration begins. Everyone was happy and joyful and congratulates Prince Dimitri and now Princess Rose. Rose surprised Dimitri with a song. He didn't even know Rose could sing. Rose had the most angelic voice. Dimitri fell in love all over again. He hugged Rose tightly and they both shared a kiss and the crowd cheered. Prince Dimitri and Princess Rose sneak away from the crowd and went out to the beautiful garden and danced under the stars. They both laughed and hugged each other and shared a long kiss. They all live happily ever after. The end.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on very interesting videos. Have a beautiful day to each and everyone.